Oh, good Saturday night, Sunday morning, whatever you want to call it. I was just watching Vice News, and well, for about a year now, it seems I've been trying to tell people the Cold War never ended, and also been telling people that ISIL didn't pop up right after MH17 was shot down by coincidence, and it's being manned by disgruntled Iraqis who had Soviet connections and a bunch of Chechens and Dagestanis, etc. From for like it's basically Russian special forces and their habitual historical militia making habits, and it's called ISIL. So tonight, actually, just 20 minutes ago, it must have been posted because when I saw it, it was just posted a few minutes before. Shit, it might have been an hour by now. Lost track of time, but anyways, it's basically on the new Cold War and how Russia has recently committed cyber attacks against the White House. And Russian media is telling the Russian people and threatening other allies of the United States, other its neighbors, okay, in the Baltics especially, with nuclear war. It's telling its people, how dare they try to surround us and try to keep Russia from reclaiming its former glory. Don't they know we're the only country on earth who can turn the United States into ashes? That's on Russian media. You don't just go rallying your people up into a frenzy for no reason. The last time it happened in this country was against Saddam Hussein. And Russia's already mobilized more troops than we sent into Iraq because so they go through a bunch of different little things and they talk to a U.S. diplomat about it. And then coming up on part two, in this, it says Cold War. It doesn't say anything about terrorism or anything. It's about the new Cold War. It's about Russia. The next part of this is going to be about ISIL. Go find Vice News and check it out. See, the reason why I know Russia was coming is because this little thing I call the Night of the Laughing Dragon. It's not something you have in any storybooks because it's something that happened just a couple of years ago. And from that point on, I knew that this was going to happen because I knew that it had to happen. And it's all part of the same big plan. And that's all I'm going to say. One thing I will talk about, though, is called NASA and Silly Putty. Kind of like Napalm and Silly Putty. George Carlin's thing. Big George Carlin fan. Even let him sit on the chair for a while. Those were an interesting couple of years. Um, so, NASA, Silly Putty. These are your two options for how the Cold War was supposedly won. Did we either beat the Russians in the space? No, we didn't really beat the Russians in the space race. Did we? Can we really unilaterally say we had better rocket technology or a better space program than the Russians? It's not really something you can actually say, because even after supposedly they were bankrupt, it was mostly Russian satellites getting launched into orbit. It was mostly Russian support supposedly supplying the International Space Station. None of those modules are ours. I think was it two of them that are ours that the Russians launched, or two of them that the Russians built that are ours? But you know what I'm saying. It's not our baby, and it was the big baby through the '90s after we supposedly won, right? Now, of course, I think the actual viable interpretation of the NASA option is that we used a very cheap route to trick the Russians, the Soviet Union, excuse me, not the Russians, the Soviet Union, whatever you want to call it, into developing quite an impressive rocketry program. I mean, there's no real doubt about it. The Russians have an amazing rocketry program. And if you're a very engineering and physics minded person like myself, when you look at rockets in general from the old days, the ones where they spin out of control make a lot more sense based on simple observation of the designs. Gyroscopes can only do so much when you're talking about that kind of thrust. And just a small gust is enough to throw something with two boosters and a gyroscope off course. So how could those kind of technologies ever be reliably used to put a human being in orbit, let alone to the moon? Meanwhile, back in the Soviet Union, they were making these giant rockets with four boosters facing out in all directions, providing the necessary stability it would require to actually get anywhere or to call a rocket in any way reliable. So the whole space race was, as Russian media will tell you, just are tricking them into spending too much money on rockets. And it's one of the reasons why they're so pissed right now, I suppose. But guess you shouldn't have been killing millions of people that didn't fucking have the same culture as you for fucking no reason. They were in your way. That whole killing millions of people thing doesn't really fly with us. That's what America's about. We're about helping other people. We've fucked up royally in the past, but huh, there seems to be a whole bunch of suspicious instances in which we were clearly tricked into helping in the wrong way or just generally tricked into fucking up. Okay. Okay, so say this isn't true. Say it was actual space program versus space program. You still have to say that there was no clear winner. So what's your other option on how we won the Cold War? Silly Putty. We had pretty much no industry left by the end of the Cold War. We had lost our industrial phone in order to gain allies. Okay, and that was a trick that we fell for. Okay, and it was the trick that China was really our enemy. China is between a rock and a hard place. Okay, and China is a wonderful culture, and there's only one people that doesn't want to leave China alone. That's Russia. Always has been. But see, China can't exactly let Russia know if and when the United States and Russia, I mean, the United States and China, were to actually get along. Which I think behind closed doors right now, there's really no telling. But it's possible. Because, man, China and Russia don't really like each other. They play like they like each other a lot. I don't think they like each other. And I think Obama's smart enough to know that. Okay? So, what kind of industries did we have that would have economically, that's the story, we economically collapsed the Soviet Union? Well, Wall Street sure told it to do it. We, uh, we were starting to really slump as far as automotive production. We had serious competition in Europe and Japan rising up. Allies needed help. Okay. And while it sucks for Americans, it sucks more? Um, being wiped out. That sucks a lot more. Trust me. Been wiped out before. Hmm. So what in the late 1980s was the most successful American industry? Well, that was the movie industry, wasn't it? Hmm. Oh yeah, the movie industry that helped fake the fucking space program. Oh, it just tied right back into it, didn't it? Thank you. You're welcome. Peace. Veg on that for a while. I don't know what to tell you. If you're not catching on, you're just being stubborn. We're in danger, folks. Danger, Will Robinson. I don't know how much more obvious it could be, but stay tuned. I have lots of notes. I have done much scribble scratch with the pen and paper snatch.